Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. What's going on, everybody? My name is Obiekwe Okolo. That is what my mother named me. I affectionately go by Obi to those who are friends. You showed up today, so now you're friends, and you can call me Obi. The barrier is low. Again, I want to address the elephant in the room to start out our little meeting here. I am, in fact, again, wearing cowboy boots, and I love them. That is my ongoing bit. Good morning to you all. Welcome to Creative Mornings. Who has never been here before? Aaron has never. Aaron, stand up for us. Aaron, pop up. Not only has Aaron never been here before, but Aaron showed up promptly at 8 o'clock. Look, I appreciate it. Welcome. This is a monthly gathering of creative minds, hearts, souls, bodies, spirits that happens globally. CM is a global organization that was started by Tina Roth Eisenberg some years ago to lower the barrier to entry for continuing education and inspiration for creative communities all around the world. Started in New York, and now we are, I'm gonna trip on that by the end of this, now we are everywhere. New York, Chicago, DC, LA. Fun fact, through the entire conflict in Ukraine, the Kiev chapter has kept meeting. So y'all wanna talk about it's hard to wake up in the morning, shut up. Every month we meet along a specific theme that is selected by chapters all over the world again, the year before. So I know all the themes for next year and they're all fire. This month's theme is simplicity. And this month's illustration was done, also all of these are done by members of the community, by Jessica. I'm not gonna butcher their last name because I have a last name that's been butchered and I don't like it. So we love this place, we love this space, we love that you're here, and I love that we're doing this with thousands of people all over the globe. Most communities meet on either the second to the last or the last Friday of every month. We are scheduled intentionally on the second to the last because Baltimore's Creative Mornings happens on the last Friday. So if there's ever a time when you want to just like piggyback week to week, you can do that. Next week's Baltimore's Creative Mornings meeting, and a wonderful friend and talented artist is our speaker, or their speaker, not our speaker. So check that out. This is the time when I ask you guys if anyone's ever heard of MailChimp. I don't have to ask it this time, because guess what? They're not a global partner anymore, and I feel kind of bad about that. I got the email, and I was like, did I manifest this shit? Is this my fault? But this doesn't happen without our local partners. Everything that you see in this space, from the coffee to the space itself, the volunteers, all of this is given to us gratis. We get a lot of in-kind support because all of our communities all over the world are volunteer-based. It's just people doing it because they love it. The partner that we are inhabiting today is Planet Word. I just want to shout out Ashley back there, Christine Hunter. Hunter was the person who coordinated this. She is now on leave, having some rest. Thank you all for having us. How many of y'all have never been to this building before? And this is it, and here we are. Again, DC, we are so spoiled for beautiful institutions like this, for beautiful architecture, for beautiful spaces, that oftentimes we just kind of forget to pop in. This is a beautiful space. I'm also guilty. I had not been here before we did the tour. But today, we are fortunate to have the museum reserving a handful of passes for anyone who wants to hang out here after we're done. We'll have full first access to the exhibits. And also, it's worth noting they have a lot of programming, just like every other institution in the city, and most of it's free, just like every other institution in the city. Please capitalize on that. Go to Planet Word's website and see what's up. Thank you all so much for hosting us and making this easy in this beautiful building. Our title sponsor for this year is Bittersweet Creative. I'm biased, I work for them. You know this. I have the pleasure of being the creative director for this organization, company. We are a full-service creative agency. Functionally, we believe, foundationally, we believe in doing work that helps others and helps ourselves, reject cynicism, defy apathy, celebrate good. I think that all of those things are absolutely crucial to the function of creativity. Cynicism blocks creativity. Apathy makes creativity impossible. And if you fail to celebrate good, then what are we doing in this world? I love the company I work for, and I love that they support us monetarily and also with my time, because again, volunteers. We are always looking for stories for our nonprofit arm as Bittersweet. We tell stories of good all around the world, nominated by our readers. If you know an organization or an individual or a community that's doing any sort of great work, again, all around the world, we've been everywhere, just short of North Korea. A few of our, I mean, that's real, we really have tried. A few of our storytellers are no longer allowed back in Israel because of some things. Again, like, we've done this thing, we love this thing, we love finding the good in the world, despite the despair, because we know that the despair is there, it's always gonna be there, but we will not let the despair have the last word. We've also got some other great partners that make things possible. Plants Alive is our accessibility partner for this year. At events where we'll need it, you will see that we will have ASL translation and captioning happening in real time. We do not need it for this event, so you don't see it today. But it's all provided by Plants Alive, and Charlestown AV does all of our AV, except for today. Somebody got sick, couldn't make it, and the homie David Lotfi on the camera back there decided to step up. I texted him yesterday, and here he is today. This is all a labor of love, y'all. Like, people just show up, and this doesn't happen if people don't show up. And our speaker, quite frankly, is someone who, when we first came out of COVID, showed up for us. I'll get to that in a second. Lastly, we have another fun partnership to announce today. The Atlantic Festival reached out and asked if we'd be interested in partnering, and I said, what does that mean? And they said, we want you to talk about our event, and I was like, what do we get? You'd be surprised when you are a community that shows up the way that you all show up, how frequently people ask for your attention. A lot. Colleen can tell you that most of our job is protecting your email addresses. So they reached out, I said, what's up? We had a conversation. The Atlantic Festival is something that I've always kind of wanted to go to, but quite frankly, just like this community was created, the barrier to entry, the cost barrier to entry is silly a little bit for a 2-day conference. So never have made it happen, but it is, on principle, something that I enjoy. Like, I love the idea of gathering great minds to think differently, have discussions. And then I saw Spike Lee was on the roster this time around. I was like, all right, let's make this happen. What do we gotta do? What do we gotta do? So, happy to announce, using that QR code and the promo code Creative, they're knocking off 30% from the price of the passes, whether it's a 1-day pass or the 2-day pass. It is next Thursday and Friday. So, obviously, time crunch. Again, they reached out last week, and we made this happen really fast. But if you can make it, it's worth doing. It is at the Wharf. There's also a lot of virtual programming that is a lot cheaper. So if you can't make it in person, feel free to plug in at your desk while you're definitely working on a Friday, because that's what we do on Fridays, is work. Last but not least, the salt of the earth, the people who actually grind it out and make this thing happen practically. You know them, you love them. Nothing happens without them. And also our day of volunteers who usher you in, who register you, who give you name tags. Please, please, please always show gratitude to those people. And in the spirit of showing gratitude to one of those people who, unfortunately, has decided to move to Portland, Oregon. Our wonderful story team lead, Sarah O'Malley, who, if you see any Instagram stories, posts, if y'all are asking any trifling questions on Instagram, she's the one answering it because she's got the patience for it. Sarah, can you raise your hand back there? Sarah? Yep. Before she was a volunteer, she was a community member. She's shown up with fidelity and faithfully. Oh yeah, this is I Hope You Dance, by the way. We're doing a full montage. We're doing a send-off montage, fam. We're doing this. She's always working, right? During the event, she's working hard. There she is, posting stuff on stories, and when she's not working, she's serving looks, right? Between working, she's so embarrassed. This is the best thing I've ever done in my life. I have the pleasure of not only working with Sarah in this capacity, but also of being dear friends and coworkers. She works for Bittersweet as well. Sarah is a quintessential friend. She's a member of this community, and we're gonna miss her dearly. Sarah, yeah, thank you for always showing up for us, for holding us accountable, for making sure that my chaotic brain, this is so great. I'm so happy I had this idea. I can't overstate how much I appreciate the people that I get to work with in this capacity who make this thing happen. So yeah, Sarah, just a round of applause for Sarah O'Malley. at our last Creative Mornings event. We love you, we love you. We love you, we love you. And if you want to make a friend who's gonna make a farewell montage for you, you got to invite them to Creative Mornings. That's the only way to grow this community. That's the only way that this thing happens, is if you love someone enough to bring them in. Okay, that was so great. I can't. Y'all can move whenever you want, as long as I get to do that every time. Um, like I said, every month we have a theme, and every theme is hotly debated at the national level, and then we have to decide who's going to speak to that theme. When we came out of COVID in 2021, when I took the helm, I did not know what I was doing. I had seen this done for a number of years. You have no idea what happens behind the curtain, how the sausage is made, and I did not. And I said yes to a thing I did not know what I was saying yes to. My first task was to find a speaker who was down to come and sit in a room of people half-mast after the scariest year that we've all collectively shared, and say something encouraging. And I don't even remember what the theme was at this point, honestly. Oh, it was Kismet. The theme was Kismet. That's right. Thank you, Lena. And I'd never met Christine, but one day I was sitting at Shopkeepers, and speaking of Kismet, I was sitting at Shopkeepers on Florida Ave, and she walked in the door, and she was dear friends with Seda, who owns Shopkeepers, and I just kind of saw them talking. I knew Christine's book, because it was sort of in the ether at the time, and a lot of people were talking about her through the lens of her book. And here's what the internet has to say, and then I'll finish up what I have to say. Christine Platt is a believer in the power of storytelling as a tool for social change. Christine writes literature for children and adults that center African diasporic experiences, past, present, and future. She's the author of the multiple award-winning Afro-Minimalist Guide to Living with Less, and the more recent, Rebecca Not Becky, which she co-authored with Catherine Wigginton Green, who I think is in the room today. I've never met you, but I think I recognized you from watching you speak online. That's what the internet has to say about Christine. What I have to say about Christine, and what anyone who knows her in this room, is that she is a rare person. And I was talking about this with a friend the other day. There are people in the world whose posture seems to be, whether they know it or not, a default barrier. There are those people who you ask something and their first response is not to enable it, but to tell you why it's not going to work. Christine is not that person. She is the opposite of that. Christine's posture seems to be enabling and empowering and, okay, cool, this is not gonna work out, but what if you try this? And that was my experience planning that first event, my first event. I was terrified, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what we were doing, coming out of COVID. And I was like, hey, do you want to come speak to a bunch of strangers about something? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh, it's that easy. And it wasn't that easy. I can tell you this right now. For other other hosts all around the world were not having an easy time finding a speaker. But I can say again, maybe it was Kismet, maybe it's just the nature of this community. My first ask was also a yes. And I will forever be grateful. And also, she's just a person that brings a lot of gravitas, and proximity to you sort of breeds confidence. As someone who didn't know what they were doing, I was standing on stage with you, and I was like, we can do this, it's fine. And then you walked away, and I was like, I can't do this anymore, come back. Christine, I appreciate you. We are honored to have you on the stage. Everyone, introducing Christine Platt to speak on simplicity.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. All right. So lately, I've been conquering this fear and trying to conquer it the only way I know how, which is by confronting it. And that fear is AI. I am so afraid of artificial intelligence, y'all. So this morning, I asked ChatGPT to write a one-sentence summary about the concept of simplicity. And I watched in absolute awe and horror as it immediately responded. Simplicity is the art of achieving clarity and elegance by minimizing complexity and focusing on what truly matters. Listen, AI summary definitely hits the mark. Simplicity is the art of achieving clarity. And when we reduce the complexities in our lives, of course, we're able to better focus on what truly matters. But that's because simplicity is not just an art, it's also an action. And today I'm going to share some things that AI can't tell you because it hasn't engaged in the fullness of the human experience. As the old folks like to say, it hasn't lived, y'all. It has no practical knowledge of an overwhelming aspect of humanity that we're faced with every day. That part of our existence, better known as having, doing, and feeling responsible for the most. It's exhausting, isn't it? Which is why it's no surprise we find ourselves constantly wondering how to simplify our lives. So my talk today is a bit more of a conversation because I think we're all craving community right now. And it's also an invitation to the overworked, underpaid, tired, and weary to pursue the lives they want and deserve. Because among the many lessons I've learned on my journey to live with less, I've learned that the ultimate goal is to liberate ourselves from anything that no longer serves us. And the freedom that so many of us seek from our lives of the most is often found by simply learning how to organize and prioritize ourselves. This is the goal of simplicity, spending less of our time and energy on what doesn't matter so we can devote more of it to what does. In the Afro-Minimalist Guide to Living with Less, I share my holistic approach to helping people live more simply. And although it was originally intended to help people declutter their closets, it's an actionable approach to decluttering our lives as well. And don't worry, there's only 4 steps because this is all about simplicity, right? We ain't got time to be out here doing all the things. Okay, so step 1. Acknowledge that you are doing too much or that you're responsible for too much. Sounds simple enough, right? But we all know that is not the case. Because acknowledgement is more than just a verbal statement. In the same way that we take inventory of our belongings, there are times when we may need to take inventory of our lives as well. Why do we say yes when we really want to say no? Why do we continue to remain in careers and jobs that no longer serve us, or in relationships that have long since run their course? Essentially, what we are acknowledging through this act of self-inquiry is what are the limiting habits, behaviors, and beliefs that are keeping us from being our best selves and living our best lives. These aren't easy questions to answer, trust me. I know. But this is the actionable part of pursuing simplicity, getting to the root of who we are and why we do what we do. I remember acknowledging my overconsumption by taking inventory of my closet, finding all these items with the sales tag still on, discovering I had 5,100 pairs of jeans, even though I only wore the same 2. And all these feelings emerged: anger, resentment, guilt, shame, which is how I arrived at step 2, because I couldn't move forward without forgiveness. I had to forgive myself and others. The same thing happens when we take inventory of our lives. We are who we are for many reasons. Sorry, do that. We are who we are for many reasons. We are not solely responsible for who we are. And I think that's important for us to take note of. Let me also share this. When we are in this space of realizing that we are who we are, not because of our own fault in doing. When these feelings emerge, we have to forgive ourselves and others. We have to forgive ourselves and others. The thing is, how we were raised and nurtured, the people in our communities and villages whose words and opinions we tend to hold as truth, we have to sit with that, right? That is part of this acknowledgement. And again, remember that we are not solely responsible for who we are and why we do what we do. But that doesn't mean we have to remain who we are. There may have been a time when some of the things that we were told served a purpose in our lives. Or maybe they never served a purpose, but we held on to them because of the person who said them. Maybe we held them in a high regard, or, we really just valued who this person is and what they said. And when we realize how what we were told or shown has influenced and shaped our lives, the feelings that emerge can not only cause us to have feelings of anger and resentment towards the people who said and did such things, we often feel terrible for having believed such things. Which is why we not only have to forgive the people who knowingly or unknowingly contributed to our lives of having and doing the most, we must also forgive ourselves. It's the only way to move forward with grace and compassion toward the life of simplicity that we want and deserve. Forgiveness is the only way to let go. Because if we want to live more simply, we have to let go of the habits, behaviors, and beliefs that keep us trapped in our lives of overwhelm. We have to acknowledge what's holding us back, forgive ourselves and others, and let it go, which is also not as easy as people make it seem. Life is not like the movie Frozen, and we are not like Elsa, singing away our limitations. Letting go is hard, which is why step 3 is an opportunity for us to do another self-evaluation. What are the habits, behaviors, and beliefs that serve me well? What do I do and what do I think about myself that is beneficial? What do I need, use, and love? And what do I need to let go? This work can be done alone. It can be done in community with people you trust. And its process can be repeated as many times and as often as you need to, because we are ever evolving and growing. There's a mantra that I tell myself in these letting go moments. A statement that reminds me it's okay to acknowledge, forgive, and let go so that I can continuously become the best version of myself. And that mantra is, I am not a grown woman. I am a growing woman. And may I always be growing and never fully grown. And when we do this work, it's equally important to pay it forward, that we encourage and uplift each other, that we share our struggles as well as our success stories. We pay it forward when we stop pretending having and doing the most is a sustainable and enjoyable existence. We pay it forward when we embrace our whole selves and our lives with authenticity and intention. When we have opportunities to choose simplicity in private, we should do so without guilt or shame. Likewise, when we have an opportunity to do so publicly, we can pay it forward by being representatives for simplicity. Instead of doing the most, like staying up all night and trying to memorize a speech about simplicity, we can publicly choose to do and be content with enough. Because living more simply is an actionable and fulfilling lifestyle that's available to anyone who chooses to pursue it. Acknowledge, forgive, let go, and pay it forward. There will be times it's challenging, but trust me, it's worth the work. So, of course, I had to ask AI to give us a call to action on how to live lives of simplicity. The first prompt was, write a one-sentence call to action that invites people to live more simply. And AI said, and the emphasis here is on AI, not me. Simplify your life and find true joy in the beauty of simplicity today. I didn't like that so much, so I tried again. Write a two-sentence call to action that encourages people to live more simply. Embrace the liberating power of simplicity. Declutter your life and rediscover what truly matters. Join us on a journey toward a more balanced, purposeful existence. So let's do that, shall we? Thank you. Thank y'all so much. I wanted to leave a little time open for questions, comments, to truly have a conversation. So anyone at all? Oh, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, first of all. I've been following you for a while, and I have to say your poetry coming through a little more.
Thank you.
I don't know if other people feel that way. So thanks for being consistent.
Thank you.
And I think some of the early stuff I read by you was about letting go of people who don't fill your cup.
Yes.
And that sometimes feels like scary and hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's a long person. So can you just talk me through an example or like your best tips for how to do that gracefully?
Sure. I'm laughing because I have several friends in the room who did not have this same struggle. And they would watch me literally overextend myself to everyone, right? Someone, you don't have to nod, Aaron. Very much like you sound, is very empathetic, always wanted to help, always wanted to be of service. And what I realized was that a lot of my time and energy was going towards serving other people rather than serving myself. And the challenge with letting go of people like that is that, you feel bad, right? And my therapist actually said something to me, which is, it is your responsibility to be gentle when letting these people go out of your life, because you created these monsters, right? And that was something that I had to truly own, right? Like, I created this, sort of cycle where you could come to me and ask me for anything, and there was no reciprocity, right? There was no benefit to me other than, yay, I helped someone, right? And like, where does that get you after a while? And what I discovered is that no is not only a very empowering word, but it also allows you to find those people in your life who are really there for you. None of my friends have an issue with me saying no. Ever. Right? because we're all out here just trying to live and survive, and we have responsibilities and duties and expectations. And the people who struggle with you saying no, for you having a boundary, they will shake themselves out of your life so fast. I promise you, right? And again, the benefit is for you. And you will have to forgive yourself, right? I mean, that was the 1,100 pairs of jeans was one thing, right? The time and energy that I had just given so freely over the years that I could never get back. I had to forgive myself for that, right? And then I had to let it go and pay it forward by telling someone like you, who is very much like me, that it's worth the work. Definitely worth the work. You're welcome.
So, thank you. I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more about that. What does that mean? To what serves us? How do you define that? What are some parameters we should use to define what that means about being healthy? But also on the flip side, if there are some dangers you have to watch out for when you're thinking those terms, not to become sort of narcissistic and self-centered, and if, how that balance works out in your own life.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that word narcissist because when I was trying to learn to be more assertive and to be a better advocate for myself, I actually, this is such a Capricorn thing, let me just also say that. But I actually Googled how to be a narcissist. Like, help me. And here's the thing, right? Like, we know, intuitively, we know when something isn't serving us. We get that feeling in our gut. We get that nagging in our ear, right? Sometimes we may even have a visceral reaction, right? Some people break out in hives. You know what I mean? Like, we know, right? So the challenge is not the knowing. The challenge is the doing, right? What are you going to do about it? Am I going to keep 50 pairs of jeans, or am I going to let them go, right? Am I going to continue to hold on to limiting habits, behaviors, and beliefs that no longer serve me? And I can see how they're no longer serving me, right? Or am I going to let go and stop perpetuating this cycle, right? So what is considered serving for me, or serving, not serving, may be very different for someone else, right? And so that's why that self-inquiry is so important. You have to know yourself, right? And when I say this work can be done alone and in community, part of that is because our friends, our true friends, also know us really well. And they may be able to help us see some things that we're unwilling to acknowledge. We see them too, but, we're unwilling to acknowledge them, right? And when you have people in your life who truly love you, when you ask them these questions, be prepared, right? But they'll be honest, right? Because the people who truly care about you want you to become the best version of yourself. They want you to continue to evolve and to grow, right? And so they're going to tell you the truth. I have a lot of truthful folks in my life. Don't nod. Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for this. It's really life-giving for me. I think as a creative, there's this tendency to want to learn more and do more and know more and be more marketable, more skilled, have more agility in this space. Particularly, we're talking about AI, we're talking about all these other pressures that we're experiencing, so much change that we have to constantly keep up with in a lot of ways to stay relevant. And I think that's the pressure I experience a lot in terms of, okay, I'm going to take on more because I have to learn more. Oh, this new thing is out. I have to learn that new application. I have to learn that new thing. And so how do you deal with that sort of tension between the desire to learn and grow, but also the understanding that you're a finite human who can only handle so much?
It's a great question. I mean, it's so funny. I'm thinking of Afro Minimalist at its height, and some of the folks who are in here that followed the Afro Minimalist account before it was, now it's I Am Christine Platt, but it was Afro Minimalist, and I started that account literally just because I wanted to show people another way to live with less, right? Another approach to minimalism that wasn't this cookie cutter approach. And that account grew faster than I could have ever imagined. And all of a sudden, I had amassed this huge following of folk who were literally looking at me every day the same way y'all are looking at me like, tell us what to do. You know, and I was, you know, it just got to be a lot. Like, I just wanted to, like, you know, take pictures of my house and be like, look, my little minimalist life, right? And what ended up happening was this pressure that you're speaking of, right? When I started Instagram, it was just photos. And I had to learn boomerang and all, you know, and reels. And it just, you know, it was just so much pressure, right? And I would find myself subscribing to this pressure. And y'all remember early on when you went to make a reel and it took like 2 hours because you know what you were doing? And I would still. And so I would make a reel, right? Because of this pressure to produce content, to get followers. For a social currency, I'm still questioning how that works, but that's another conversation, right? And I would take 2 hours, I'd make this reel, I'd be like, I did it. And maybe I posted at the wrong time, but I would get 2 likes. That's 2 hours of my life that I couldn't get back, right? And those 2 hours would add up to 4, then it was 8, you know? And it just kept growing. And I'm like, I could be writing. I have books under contract that I need to be writing. I could be out here making reels for people for 2 likes, you know, right? Like at a certain point, you have to say, I am not buying into this. I am not buying into this false sense of currency. Because let me tell you who don't accept the Instagram like. Penn State University's bursar, right? They want my daughter's tuition dollars, okay? Right? And so at a certain point, you have to say, I am not buying into this. I have friends that have wonderful, successful, very lucrative careers that have far less followers than me, right? We all know people who have we cannot buy into this culture of doing the most on social, of trying to do the most in our lives, we're driving ourselves crazy, right? And so you have to decide, what is it that is going to make you stop, right? You have to decide that. When I have time to make a reel, I make a reel. And it's a reel that I want to make. I share with my mom, right? It ain't really got nothing to do with y'all. Okay? And that way I don't feel bad when it gets 2 likes, right? Like, I wanted to show y'all, you know, like, look. Oh, they ain't like it. Okay, well, whatever, right? I made that for me, right? So I went back to making Instagram what it had always been for me in those early days, which was a scrapbook of chronicling my life and my journey to living with less and being an author. And that's it, you know? Yes. Dang, Obi.
Got me running cowboy boots, bro. That's not what these are made for.
To that note and to what the last question was, I guess my question, or what I would like you to expound upon is the ideas around simplicity based on this particular structure or thinking about these particular things, awareness, forgiveness, right, makes sense to me. My fear is that we live in a world where we already simplify too much. And I actually want to know, and I actually believe that there should be more things that we complicate. I think our argument should be more complicated. I think we have to acknowledge that the human experience is a complex one. Complex is simplicity. The antonym would be complexity, right? So I think that our lives are complex. I think our emotions, most of our emotions are complex, including the emotion of forgiveness, or the task of forgiveness. The journey of forgiveness is a complex one. And so I guess, how do we stop this? Because, we live in a world where everything is distilled down to a tweet.
Right.
Everybody's wisdom, everybody's like, we all pray to the altar of 140 characters as if that's enough,
Right.
just because it's distilled and simplified to actually change our lives when life is just messy.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
guess I just want you to speak a bit about like the wrestling between that, because I think like simplicity makes sense to me. And as someone who has worked and always trying very hard to simplify my life, it is a messy life all the time. My
Yeah.
brain is a complex brain. My friends' relationships, my relationship with my family, right? We live complex lives. And so I guess talk a bit about that so that there aren't, because there's always somebody here who came to get answers. And my fear is that they'll walk out believing that this is literally just an easy decision to make. And then life is going to do what life does.
Yeah. To be clear, this is not an easy decision to make, right? And I love that you say that, Jason, because I think one of the gifts of choosing to live more simply in certain aspects of your life when you can is that it does open up this space, right, to explore some of these things that you discussed, right? I mean, to think that you can take a 4-step process and walk out of here and your life is about to be, this is it, right? Which is what happened to me when I, started my minimalist journey. I'm on Pinterest, right? They're saying, if I have this little barren space and everything is all white and cream and gray, I'm about to be winning out here, right? And so I go and I let go of all this stuff. And you remember I have like this barren space and I'm sitting in there like, this is the saddest. I hated it, right? But what it did was it opened up space for me to explore the complexities of overconsumption. Why was I buying all this shit, right? Sorry, can I curse?
No, you're good. You are good. You are good. This is not NPR. We're fine.
Okay. Why was I buying all this stuff, right? Why was I buying into this idea of minimalism that I saw online, right? Like to explore, it opened up space for me to explore the more complex aspects of my life, right? And when you do this self-inquiry, you are going to keep digging and digging and digging. And that is part of the work of becoming our best selves, right? It's getting past this surface of pretending like, I'm good. I got it all figured out. None of us have it all figured out, right? We take bits and pieces of prescription from people who we admire and value and we take it and we form our best lives and our best selves. And it is a constant work in progress, right? Which is why I like to say, I am a growing woman. I'm not grown, right? Even when I move on to whatever the next thing is, there is still more for me to learn, And so I'm really glad that you said that because life is complex and messy, right? There is no answer that I know of, right, of how to make it not messy. It's just no answer to that, right? Can you make it less messy? Can you be more intentional, right? Like there are steps that we can take, right? But this idea that there is any sort of formula that is going to fix all the things is just not possible. So I hope I cleared that up. Manage your expectations, y'all, because it's not it. Yes, I saw another hand.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
Can you talk about being an Afro minimalist, a Black minimalist? Like, what does it mean what's the joyful part about being an Afro minimalist? What are the challenging parts about being an Afro minimalist?
Sure. So I came up with the term Afro minimalist after living in my all-white, barren little box and deciding that this wasn't going to work for me, right? Like, I need color, I need fabric, I need texture, I need memories of my people, I need Blackness in my house, okay? And so I came up with this term, and what it really is just a minimalist life influenced by the African diaspora, right? And I think because, again, of the social media following I had at the time, you know, I'm surely not the first Black minimalist, I can assure you of that, right? But I had this presence online, and then all of a sudden it was like, Afro minimalist. And it's like, it's literally just a minimalist life influenced by the African diaspora. It's a lifestyle that anyone can, you know, embrace if that's what they want to do. And I really don't find any challenges with it because it's just me living as intentionally and as authentically as possible, right? I buy things. I let things go. You know what I mean? I never hide that, you know. I don't count the number of things that I have, you know, because, again, it's rooted in authenticity and intention. And I need, use, and love everything that I have. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Your talk hits me at a point where I really need it, so appreciate this so much.
You're welcome.
But you mentioned your daughter.
Yes.
And as a mother of small children, I love this. I want to jump into this journey. Do you have any advice for how to bring along your family, those who love you, all of the stuff that's all over my house that isn't mine, that brings joy to others? Any tips on that would be amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny because I think parents, they often feel like their children are going to struggle with the concept of less, right? They don't. They really don't. My daughter had a lot of stuff because I bought her a lot of stuff. And I allowed a lot of stuff into her life, right? She wasn't at an age where she could say, I don't want this, right? Nor had it been modeled for her to say, no, I don't want this, right? And I would get angry. Why you got all this stuff in here? It's so messy, you know? As if a 5-year-old went out to the store and bought all the stuff. And so, you know, a lot of what children learn is through modeling by what they see, right? And that was a big part of me making that shift, was because I realized I was perpetuating a cycle, right? When you're bored, let's go shopping. When we're sad, let's go shopping. When we're tired, let's go shopping. It's going to wake us up, right? Instead of many other approaches to some of the feelings that we, you know, just experience on a day-to-day basis. And what I didn't want was to have a child who grew up to be an adult that was like I was, which just an overconsumer at her core because of what was shown and modeled to me. And so when I, you know, started the journey, I stopped buying stuff for her, right? I stopped welcoming stuff into her life. People want to give her toys, Nope, she doesn't need any more toys, right? No is a superpower, okay? You have to embrace that no. And I remember her, it was her 8th birthday party, and she still had so much stuff, okay? Had a little Build-A-Bear issue. It's my issue, but, you know. And so she had, like, just so, there was just stuffed animals. There was just stuff everywhere. And I remember saying, there will be no gifts at this birthday party, right? I remember asking her, what do you want? I don't know. You don't know, because she had everything. She was overwhelmed, right? That was her way of saying I'm overwhelmed. And so I had a carnival in our backyard, and the kids all they had to do to gain entry was bring a canned good. And it was for our local food pantry. And the night before that part, I'm getting texts from all these what? I thought they were only supposed to bring one canned good. I'm like, they are. They're like, so-and-so is in here raiding the pantry. Like, we had bags of groceries. And the kids had a blast. To this day, that is the only birthday party that she talks about and the only one that she remembers fondly. And we took those groceries to the food pantry, and I remember I went off in the corner, and I'm just like crying, right? I'm thinking of the money that I had spent, right? The lessons that I thought I was teaching her by giving her all the things that I couldn't have when I was a child, right? Part of that self-inquiry that you're doing is figuring out, why am I buying all this stuff for my child, right? And oftentimes it goes back to our own lives of scarcity, right? Promises that we made ourselves when we were kids, right? So that is part of this work. That is part of the complexity that Jason referenced, right? This idea that it's not just as simple as going to get a garbage bag and putting all the stuff in there and being like, now your room is decluttered, right? Because if you don't do the work to get to the root cause of that, that room will be decluttered again and again and again. The last thing I'll say to you and other parents in here, children are very compassionate, right? They have yet to be tainted by this world. And so you lean into that compassion, right? It's not, go in there and get all this stuff. This is too much stuff, right? Put it in the bag. It's saying, you know what? You are so fortunate. Look at all this stuff that's in here. There's so much stuff in here. You don't even have a place to put everything. Do you know there are kids right in our own neighborhood, right in our own community, in our city, who don't even have a fraction of what you have? If I give you this bag, do you think you can fill it up? Right? And then we can donate it and we can make some other kids happy. Can you do that? Watch how fast they fill up that bag. And I caution you, don't open it. Okay? Because the things that we think our children could never part with will be right in that bag, hurting your feelings, okay? Because Nala did it to me. I was like, how you gonna throw away our Harry Potter sweater? You know? So I hope that helps. Do we have time for one more question? All right.
So this one's coming from me over here. And thank you again for your talk. And I just want to tell you that I really love your dress. If you're going for elegance and simplicity, you're nailing it. My question is about applying your sort of principles or philosophy to work. You've talked a lot about community and, you know, your own personal life, and there you have a lot of control over how you spend your time, who you talk with, who you let in, who you let go. Work's a little different, and I think it's a bit simplistic to say, well, if you're not happy with your job, just quit. Obviously, we all wish we could just quit, but it doesn't always work that way. So what is your suggestion for when you are in that sort of more structured environment where you may not necessarily have the wherewithal to say, it's my way or the highway, or I have to prioritize myself. So how do you apply sort of your principles to a work situation?
Yes, that's a great question. And I have just quit many times. And, you know, I do want to speak to that because you are telling the truth, right? Like, you can't just walk out of your job, right? Depending on what your obligations and responsibilities are. But you can plan to leave something that is no longer serving you, right? I'll also say this. If they wanted to get rid of you, it's a much easier, right? And that helped me a lot, right? This idea that it's my job. No, it's a job. It's a role. It's a title where you are employed until you decide to leave or they decide they no longer need you, right? Language is important, right? So we don't own it. It is not ours, right? So release that first, right? And I think that'll also help you in terms of how you manage and structure your day and time, right? Because we're not just one way in one aspect of our life or in one area of our life, right? In the same way that I was overextending myself to friends and family, I was overextending myself in the workplace as well, right? The responsibilities that we have in the workplace are usually pretty defined, right? It's pretty clear. We have a position description, and we tend to veer off from that, right? And for many reasons, right? To be that overachiever, right? To prove ourselves or to show ourselves. Cultural, beliefs, again, that some of us have, right? I have to work twice as hard to be seen. All that kind of stuff. When I talk about letting go of stuff, you have to let that go. I am not working twice as hard as anyone else for you to see me. I'm going to do my job, and you see me and my work, or you don't, right? I'm almost 50 years old. It took me I hadn't been working since I was born or anything, but it took me almost 30 years to get to that place, right? Because the reward for doing the most in the workplace is getting more work, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get that, it's mine, right? That's where that comes from. I've invested so much time and energy. I've done this. It's not yours, right? And that's why it hurts when we are terminated from a role, because we felt like it was ours, because we invested so much time and energy, because we went above and beyond what our position description was, right? Even if it's in the hopes of advancing, right? And you look up, and now it's gone. I promise you, if you choose to do just your job, you will be fine, right? Because whether you stay on your own accord, whether you leave on your own accord or through no fault of your own, you will walk away knowing that you did not sell your soul for a place that you no longer work at, okay? And I'm telling you this as someone who has been there, right? Who has overextended, overexerted herself in positions before, only to be left feeling heartbroken when I had to leave to save myself, right? Or when I was let go through no fault of my own, right? So I really want you to think through the limiting habits, behaviors, and beliefs that you hold about work. And that will help you get to that place of working more simply and intentionally. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Christine. A lot can be said there. I love when she's on stage. It's just wonderful. Are there any firm leaders, company leaders, whether you're C-suite or like a manager or a director in the room? Can you raise your hand really quickly? Don't be ashamed. I'm not gonna out y'all. It's fine. It's okay. Team leaders, any of that. I think one of the early conversations that I had when we joined Bittersweet, and this is related to the work thing. When I joined Bittersweet, we were coming in, or we were just hitting sort of a season of growth, and our CEO Kate, who was a dear friend and a mentor, prompted this conversation that I've never heard a leader prompt before. What is enough? And we all had a conversation about what enough is. And what I mean by that, it was like, what's enough money? Like, hey, Obi, what does enough look like for you for a salary? Which was wild to hear. And quite frankly, it was a really interesting thing to sort of indict myself on. What does that look like? Because we have this more mindset, right? So what does enough look like for me? I didn't know at the time. I'm still trying to figure that out. What does enough look like for us as a company? How many clients is enough? How much revenue is enough? What size of a company does she want? And where do we cap it? And it trickled down all the way to like our evaluation processes. So when I joined, we had a standard sort of evaluation, 0 to 5, with 3 being the middle, sort of 3 meets expectations, 0 far exceeds or underperforms, and 5 far exceeds expectations. And I had a question. I was like, why do we ever want anyone to operate at a 5? If you put 5 gallons of gas in your car, what are you expecting from your car? 5 gallons of mileage, right? You don't expect, what are we, the Maccabees? Like, how does this work? What does that make? We had this long conversation of like, what does it mean to operate at a 5, and why is that what we want from our team members? Because if you're at a 5, you're exerting yourself. You're overexerting yourself. So we just killed it. We have clear expectations, and you meet those, and that's a win. There is no exceeding expectations. There's no reason to exceed expectations. If you're looking for your team members to exceed your expectations, you're not communicating your expectations right. And I think to all the team leaders in here, make it easier on people who are asking that question. How do I simplify my work life? It's us. We are the ones that are complicating the work life. Let's just be real about it. Just wanted to address that really. I just want to address that really quickly. And I also love Jason's note about complexity. I love when these minds get in the room because something magical happens, and I know that I happen to know a few of these people, so just like watching them move around each other is such an honor. But when Jason and Christine talk, something really cool happens. Christine's initial definition of simplicity referred to the word clarity, and I think there's something really powerful in that because I think both complexity and simplicity serve clarity. They are not opposite sides of the same coin. They are not dichotomies. Both serve clarity. I've worked on brands where simplicity, aesthetic simplicity, was the clearest way to communicate the brand. I'm working on one right now where aesthetic complexity is the clearest way to communicate the brand, right? So like, don't think of those things as a duality or a dichotomy. That's not how that works. And I love the fact that sort of came out from this talk because everything that Christine was saying was, as you pursue this simplified life, other things will become more complex and you'll have space for that. And I think there's a lot of power in that mental model shift. We have time. We have very little time. If you have to leave, please leave now because you know what comes next. I'm going to do it. I always respect your time, but I will always prioritize your peace. At the end of these talks, I like to just give people and give us a collective moment to reflect and sit with what we've just heard. We are go, go, go as a city. We never stop. This is sometimes for some of you the only moment where you have to just like breathe in your week. So as we always do at this time, I'm going to sort of lead us in 2 minutes of collective silence. It's uncomfortable if you haven't done it before. It's not if you have. Sometimes it's uncomfortable if you've done it 100 times. It's really, really uncomfortable if you're standing on stage with a microphone and people are staring at you. So just know that I'm having a less fun time than you are doing this. But I think it's important. I think there's a power in a shared silence, all of us bringing our heart, our spirit, our soul, our experience together in a room and not saying anything about it, but just holding it. All of us are dealing with things. Some of us are celebrating. Some of us are mourning. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate things by saying too much. And the simplest thing is to say nothing. So for 2 minutes, I just want us to sort of take a deep breath, take whatever posture is comfortable for you, reflect on what Christine just said, reflect on your week, reflect on the week to come. Starting now. thank you all for that. Again, I want to thank Planet Word for having us in this wonderful space. Actually, if people are interested in getting into the museum afterwards, who should they see? Go to the front desk. Okay, so if you're hanging around, go to the front desk to grab your pass. I want to thank David for recording this. Man, that's huge. The text message the night before is wild. I want to thank Christine for coming through and dropping knowledge again, like you always do. I want to thank Sarah and bid you another farewell. We love you. We'll miss you. Portland should be so lucky. And I want to thank you all for showing up another morning, another month. Next month, we're trying to figure out where we're going to be. But it's going to be a really exciting one. Farah Skyke is our speaker next month. I know I said that before. She is our speaker next month. The theme is endurance. Stay tuned to find out where that's going to be. That said, I love you all. I'll see you next month. Bye-bye.